Believe in Bigfoot, Dogman, any cryptid? Are you skeptical?
Curious about the supernatural, conspiracy theories, the unknown? Then come join us as we explore facts, tall tales, and encounters on Creatures and Curiosities.
Hello and welcome to Creatures and Curiosities. I'm David.
And I'm Jake.
And in this week's episode, we are going to be talking about a urban legend, more so than a cryptid, of a gentleman called the Bunnyman.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. It's a great story. And before we get into it, kind of just wanted to recap last episode where we were talking about the Alabama White thing.
Yeah.
I just cannot state enough how much I enjoyed talking to Paul.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Great guy. I can't wait to hear about him and Chad. He did email, said that they got rained out, so they weren't able to go hunt the Poplik monster.
Right.
But it's still on their radar. They're still going to go out and do it. And so I made sure that he knew.
Which is the right call. I mean, if you're out there potentially battling a demonic goat, you don't want to be slipping around in the mud. So.
Exactly. So when the weather shapes up, they're going to go. And I told him, make sure you contact us. Let us know how the hunt went. But again, I just wanted to throw out that appreciation that he took the time out of his day to email us and tell us about, his cryptid in his state and wanted to be on the show. And I just thought that was great.
It was awesome, man.
And I would encourage any of our listeners to do the same, because we had a lot of fun with Paul. And I just think that it kind of spices up the episodes, to hear somebody else's perspective and maybe their experience or what they've seen. Just makes it a lot of fun for us.
And it makes me feel a little bit, not that I care, but it makes me feel a little bit less crazy when someone else has some of the same views too. It's like, okay, we're not the only ones.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cryptids out there in the world and a lot of people see them. So call in, email, we'll call you.
Right.
And let's get you on the show as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, moving into the Bunnyman. The Bunnyman is generally described as just this guy wearing a bunny suit, carrying a hatchet or an axe. And in one particular sighting that we will discuss later, he was described as a 20-year-old male, about 5 feet, 8 inches tall, weighing somewhere between 160, 175 pounds, wearing a gray, black, and white bunny costume. And in that particular account, he had a long-handled axe, whereas in the first sighting of him, it was more of a small-handled wooden hatchet type.
The hatchet, to me, is it a little bit scarier? Because you could swing it faster.
Swing it faster.
If you're talking about defending yourself.
And it's going to be more close quarter.
Right.
But also easier to throw than a long-handled axe. Although I have friends that do those axe throwing competitions, and they have a little bit longer handle on them. But I agree with you. Short-handled axe is way easier to wield and to throw.
Right.
If you want to, which he in fact did in this particular incident.
Exactly.
So he's a axe throwing bunny is what he is. Location for the Bunnyman is generally the Fairfax County, Virginia area, and specifically just outside Clifton, Virginia, there's an area called the Colchester Overpass. And it is a southern railway overpass that was built in 1906, located just off of Colchester Road in this dense wooded area between Fairfax Station and Clifton. And that actually is located about 25 miles southeast of Washington, D.C. Now, if you look this up on the map, there's actually like two areas. One is called the Colchester Overpass. The other one was called the Fairfax Station Bridge. And when you look at the map, the Fairfax Station Bridge, even on Google Maps right now, is now called Bunnyman Bridge.
So you got to love that.
You got to love it.
Yeah.
And so what I wasn't able to figure out, because they look the same, I've never been there. And so I can't say with 100% certainty that they're either one and the same or two separate locations, but it appears on the map that they're two separate, like, overpasses, the way the train tracks run through. All of the information that I was able to find says that the Colchester Pass was where the Bunnyman was. But if you look on the map, Colchester Pass shows as Colchester Pass, and the Fairfax Station Bridge is the one that's now been named the Bunnyman Bridge.
Right.
And so there's a little confusion there. So I'm sorry that I'm not 100% up on that. If we ever get back there, I got to go visit it, obviously,
absolutely.
so that I can figure out exactly how it is. But it shows us two different locations. If you Google it, it's two different locations, but they're one in the same pass, if that makes any sense to you.
It does and it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it makes total sense, but yeah.
So it's the train tracks are separated.
Right.
And so there's a pass here. There's a pass here. One's called a bridge. One's called an overpass. Pictures of them look identical. And so I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
So I will just go on record stating I have no idea which one of those passes is where the Bunnyman actually is. But the legend says that it was at Colchester Pass. So we're going to just run with that. If I'm wrong, then it was Fairfax Station Bridge, now called the Bunnyman Bridge, and we'll just leave it at that.
I like it.
And then we'll just get into
Works for me. Yeah.
what the legend was. The Bunnyman has also been seen, or at least there's reports of him as far south as Culpeper, Virginia, and he's also been seen in Maryland and Washington, D.C. So, not far away.
Right.
Obviously. There are no specific accounts, even though I found that he's been seen in those areas. There's nothing to back that up. There was no sighting listed for Washington, D.C. There was no sighting listed for Culpeper. There's no sightings listed in Maryland that you can put your thumb on and say, oh, this is what they're talking about.
Right.
It wasn't out there. It's not available. So apparently this is just word of mouth. And you know how it is. We even talked about this in most of our episodes. You list 5 sightings, even though there's thousands of sightings,
Yeah.
but they're not so specific.
Right. It's not giving you a name, date,
Yeah.
location, or not location, but name and date of the person who saw it or what happened.
Exactly. And that's what I ran into with the Bunnyman.
Right.
There's a lot of people that say, oh gosh, it was horrifying. This apparition appeared and on. And it's like, okay, so who are you? Where was the apparition?
Yeah.
What was the date?
Was it
What
morning,
the time?
night? Yeah. Were you in your car? Were you standing?
And
what
you
was
get
going
nothing.
on? Yeah.
You get nothing. And it's kind of annoying that if I saw it, man, that'd be journaled.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that I would report it. Again, we've always talked about that. You don't want to be the local lunatic.
Oh, I'd report it online. I just wouldn't report it to the locals. Yeah.
Right. But there would at least be some documentation showing when, where, how, what time of day,
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. But
Especially if you're the only one reporting that to the locals, you know?
yes.
I saw a bunny, a man bunny with an axe.
with
And they're
an
like,
axe.
okay, come on. Where, if you got 3 or 4 of you, then it's like, okay, well, there's some validity here.
But I'll tell you what, in Fairfax County, Virginia, because it's still a big deal there,
yeah.
I think that if you went in and reported it, not that they would necessarily take you seriously, but, if you went to the sheriff's department or the local police there and you said, hey, I just literally saw a guy in a bunny suit with a hatchet, I don't know that they would brush you off completely, because there's always the possibility that somebody's going to do this copycat thing,
Sure.
and they would probably still go out and at least look for him.
Yeah, send a guy to just
investigate it.
patrol the area thinking it's a prank,
Yeah.
but that it's still out there.
Yeah. So it's one thing to go report that you saw the lizard man or Bigfoot.
Right.
They're going to roll their eyes. They're probably never going to go out. But I think in the case of the Bunnyman, because there were 2 legitimate sightings, I think that they would have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's not maybe necessarily the real Bunnyman,
Right.
or
some spirit.
some spirit or whatever. But I would think they would have to take it serious enough to go out and at least see if there's some guy in a bunny suit with a hatchet running around, that he's a danger to society.
Yeah, because you could either have some YouTuber who's just doing a funny video or a prank, or you have some psychopath who's
Yeah.
out there copying the Bunnyman.
Trying to keep the legend alive.
Right.
Yeah. So he's going to chop up kids or something.
Yeah.
Okay, getting into the origin of the Bunnyman. These stories are really good. I think they're fun.
Yeah.
Whether they ever happened or not is immaterial. These are great, like kind of like ghost stories that you tell around a campfire.
Exactly.
Or something,
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, that whole urban legend thing where, you just sit and you terrify your children, before bedtime. You have some s'mores at the campfire, and now they go to bed with visions of the Bunnyman in their head. They're perfect stories. Now, what I did find is that there had been a lot of studies on this. They found that there are actually 54 different variations of the story. And by saying 54, what I think, and you'll see as we get into some of these versions, I think that there's not like 54 completely different accounts of it. I think what it means is that there's variations of the same story over and over, like a name changed, or that's not the right year, or, whatever.
It's almost like that version of the telephone game you'd play as a kid, where you sit in a line, you whisper something in the person's ear.
Yes.
You wrote down what you said, and then by the time it gets exactly as it gets to the end.
Right.
It's almost how it seems in this, where it's been told so much that people are just missing one little fact here and there, changing some stuff.
And it can be just minutia up to the whole story's completely changed.
Right.
But anyway, 54 variations of the story is almost impossible to cover in a 1-hour podcast.
Right.
So I picked the best stories that I thought were the most fun. So we're going to go over these different versions. So if you want to start us off with one of the main ones, let's jump into it.
Yeah. So in 1904, there was an insane asylum located just outside of Clifton, Virginia. And the residents of Clifton obviously didn't like the fact that mentally disturbed patients lived right next to their homes,
nobody likes that. Nobody likes living next to a prison either.
Exactly. So through petitioning and I'm sure some choice words with local law enforcement and mayors, and they're getting pestered all the time, they were successful in shutting the facility down. Now, many of the criminally insane patients had to be transferred to the Lorton prison, which was about 12 miles away. The patients were loaded onto a bus, and at some point during transit, the bus swerved, lost control, and crashes. Now, in some stories, several of the patients were killed in the crash, but 2 survived.
Now, doesn't this kind of sound like Pope Lick Monster and stuff?
Exactly. I think it's almost like an axe and then some kind of bus or train crash.
Yeah.
Has to be the premise or the base for your urban legend is what it seems like.
How many of those there actually are where buses crash near a bridge or something and then somebody gets away and haunts that bridge for the remainder of life.
It's the most fitting thing.
It is.
So in other stories, the patients were all located, of course, except for one. In the case of the first account, it was believed that the patients Douglas Griffin and Marcus Walster survived the crash and escaped into the dense forest near the Colchester Overpass. Now, it's believed that Griffin murdered Walster for unknown reasons and became the sole survivor of the incident, which, when you're crazy, that is the reason.
That's the reason. You're nuts. And I did read that they found Walster's body, and they also found a bunch of dead rabbit carcasses. And so they thought Walster was the one killing the rabbits.
Right.
But after they recovered Walster's body, they found more and more and more rabbit carcasses. And so that's when they realized, hey, there's still somebody else out there.
Yeah, exactly. And in the second account, all the patients were located except for Douglas Griffin. But in either account, Griffin ends up being the only outstanding patient and is believed to be known as the Bunnyman. So several weeks have passed, and Griffin has not been located by the police. But like you were kind of saying, rabbit corpses began showing up scattered throughout the forest. Many of them were just gut piles, and it appeared that Griffin was eating the rabbits to survive and using their pelts as clothing. Which,
it's perfect.
It is. And can you imagine just being out on a hike, and then you see a guy covered in probably poorly done rabbit pelts? They're probably not professionally
they're
sewn
not stitched together.
It's not looking like a nice coat. It's probably just a big blanket of bloody
white fur with dirt smashed into
and
it.
he's just eating raw bunny meat.
That's pretty terrifying.
Now, this goes on for some time. Then, on one Halloween night, a group of kids who were hanging around the Colchester Bridge were confronted by the Bunnyman. And then they were located several days later, strung up from the bridge and gutted, which...
Yeah. How horrifying to be like law enforcement pull up on a scene where kids are hanging from the trees or from an overpass, disemboweled and dismembered.
Because it gets worse with finding dead kids, bad enough. Finding dead kids hanging, even worse. And now they're gutted on top of it. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, you get... That's
horrifying.
That's just the personification of evil. Right
exactly.
There. Whatever did that.
Which is a perfect fit for the Bunnyman.
It is the perfect fit for the Bunnyman. And like you said, when you picture this raving lunatic walking through the forest wearing bloody rabbit pelts and... I don't know. It's if you can visualize that stuff, it is what nightmares are made of.
Exactly. I just imagine him with that cloak on.
Yeah.
Or blanket, I guess, because he's not sewing it. And not only bloody, but like still pieces of the meat of the rabbit hanging off the pelt, It's like...
It's kind of like, what was it? Silence of the Lambs, where the guy is using the skin from women and he's making costumes.
Yeah, what is it? Buffalo Bill or whatever his name was, Buffalo Bob, one of those.
Yeah. It's kind of disgusting, but So moving into yet another version of the story, it's very similar, obviously, but again, a couple of little details changed. This one starts with an unknown named, instead of being Mr. Griffin. This one, they never got the name of this mental patient who escaped from a local asylum, and he found refuge in the woods around the bridge in Clifton. So basically the same kind of story.
Yeah.
Distraught by the murders of his wife and daughter, that he may or may not have committed himself. And so if you get into that story a little bit more, there's another version of this, but the possibility is that he actually killed his wife and daughter on Easter Sunday, which was kind of part of the legend on this one. And depending upon how you or who's telling the story, he either killed his own family on Easter Sunday or came home on an Easter Sunday and found his family slaughtered. So there's a couple of versions within this version.
Yeah.
And that's how this whole thing went. That's why there's 54 versions. It just changes constantly. But he remains in hiding and he lives off of rabbits to stay alive, leaving their half-eaten remains by the bridge. And again, as in the first version you just said, one year on Halloween, some children were hanging out near the bridge around midnight, and they were confronted by this guy. Well, he ends up murdering them in a blind rage, and he hangs their bodies off the bridge next to hanging dead rabbits. So it's pretty much the same story.
Right.
But now it's not Griffin. It's an unknown guy who's distraught over his family being murdered. So he chooses, he loses his mind,
right?
Escapes from a mental institution. Now he kills children. So that's a strange one.
Yeah. Moving on to the next version. Again, we have a bus carrying convicts from a nearby insane asylum, and it ends up crashing, of course, because that's how it goes.
Right.
And one of the prisoners escapes into the woods of Clifton. And during a search of the area, police found carcasses of dead rabbits hanging from trees around the train overpass of the Colchester Road Bridge. But they end up eventually locating the suspect. And when they find him, the man was wearing rabbit pelts and tried to escape the police, but before they could apprehend him, the suspect was hit and killed by an oncoming train over the Colchester Road Bridge. Now, his spirit is said to haunt that location to this day, and some say that midnight on Halloween, you could still see his ghost, or it may appear to you. Now, again, it's like little bits and pieces of the other stories with a couple other bits and pieces added in.
Yeah.
Kind of mix it up. So
very similar, although in this particular case, again, they don't blame this on Douglas Griffin.
Right, yeah.
And in this particular case, in versions 1 and 2, they never locate the suspect.
Right.
So he's out there running around still to this day. I mean, if he's mortal, obviously not.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, they find the guy. right? They chase him, and he jumps up onto the Colchester Overpass
And gets whacked by a train, yeah.
Gets plowed by a train. So
now it turns into kind of a ghost story.
Now it's a ghost story,
Right.
which kind of would make more sense in theory.
Yeah.
I mean, because if it was 1904 and Douglas Griffin is the Bunnyman, he'd be pretty old today.
Very old.
And there's still sightings of him. So I kind of like the ghost theory better.
More of a spirit haunting. Yeah, because that would stay around.
Yeah. And then, of course, as we get, further into this, you'll see where by visiting the tunnel, there's the possibility of seeing this apparition or whatnot. So it lends more credibility towards it being a ghost than being a guy in a bunny suit.
Right.
But just reporting the way, the way the legends go. So let's get into version 4. Now, this one's a little different. So an unnamed guy leaves his home one day to go out and hunt for food for his family. And when he returns home, he finds the mutilated bodies of his wife and child. Now, I think going back to version 2, where he was distraught over his family being killed, whether he did it or not, is an offshoot from this, I believe.
I agree.
So he comes home, finds the mutilated bodies of his wife and child. Now, he may or may not have killed them himself, which would go to version 2. But in this version, he calls the local sheriff. But because there were no suspects, no evidence at the scene, the sheriff concludes that must have been him. He probably killed his own family. So the sheriff arrests him for the murders of his family. So the guy's convicted and sentenced to a mental institution. Again, here we go.
Yep.
They're all very similar. And he maintains his innocence all along and vows to someday seek revenge.
Now, let's say his story is true. That might drive you mad.
It would drive you mad.
That now you're around a bunch of crazy people. You've been convicted of it. Nobody will listen to you.
Yeah.
And now you're just stuck in there.
And you have the visual image of your wife and daughter mutilated.
Yeah.
Knowing that the killer's still out there while you're in custody.
Right.
A lot of movies based on that kind of a theory.
Yeah.
But it would drive you crazy.
Absolutely.
And I know that he wants to seek revenge, but I think the revenge should be against the sheriff.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not.
Kind of like
in the end,
law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
Where no one will convict the bad guys the way they should be.
And you know what? I hate to say this, but the most stressful part of that movie is that he didn't kill Jamie Foxx.
In the end, yeah.
And his entire family.
Yeah. Sometimes when I watch it, because I love that movie, I turn it off before the end. I'm like, nope, he lives.
Yeah. And, I'm in law enforcement. You're in law enforcement. I believe in total justice.
Right.
And he obviously is a criminal. He's killing people, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But you feel for him so much that they didn't do the right thing that you almost are rooting for the guy.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I don't know that I'd be rooting for him.
Yeah,
but
definitely not.
You know what? I understand it. He's
right.
in a mental institution. His family's been slaughtered. He's being accused of it and convicted by people, despite the fact that there was no evidence. So in this particular version, I get it. Now, this guy is able to escape from the institution, which, again, every version, somehow they got away, right? Whether it's during transport or they escaped. So whatever this institution is, does not have good security.
No, they're
apparently.
terrible.
Yeah. He escapes the institution. He returns to the little town of Clifton. He lives under the bridge, which I'm assuming is the Colchester Overpass or the Fairfax Station Bridge.
One of the two.
Not sure which, didn't say. He lives under the bridge. He hunts rabbits for food, and he uses their pelts as clothing, which earned him the name Bunnyman. After some time of living in the woods, he's probably, losing his mind more and more. Secluded.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody to talk to. All he does is walk around and kill rabbits and eat them and hang out in the forest. So he's probably losing his mind more.
Isolation will get you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. You watch that show Alone, yeah? You've seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
They got expert survivalists, and some of those guys go out there and they don't even make it a day. And they're like, I tap out. I can't be alone out here.
Yeah.
Being alone is too much. It's like, what?
And it can.
Yeah.
I kind of like being alone.
Yeah.
I mean, but not for very long.
Not for weeks and weeks and months and potentially years on end. Yeah.
I don't know that I would lose my mind, but you'd be awfully bored.
Yeah. Yeah. But give me like half a day at least.
I know. Yeah. Just a little peace and quiet.
Yeah.
So after some time, children started disappearing from surrounding areas, and authorities began investigating the missing kids. Well, the investigation ends up leading them to the Colchester Bridge, where they found a grisly sight. The little kids' dismembered bodies were hanging from the trees near the bridge, and they saw the Bunnyman, and then they pursued him. He runs up onto the tracks, kind of like your version, right?
Right.
Runs up onto the tracks, and he's wiped out by an oncoming train. So there you have 4 different versions, all very similar. Some where people are named, some where they're not, some where there's murders involved, some where there's not. They all end up killing kids and hanging them off the bridge. So that's like the one constant in these versions.
Which I don't know what the revenge would be there. I guess it would be, you didn't believe me, so now I'm killing your kid. I don't know.
Yeah, so
I don't
know. I would imagine that because he lost his family, he's going to take kids from other people's families.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. That's the whole premise of the Bunnyman. He's just a sick,
he's just a psychopath. Yeah,
twisted, warped guy that's out there wearing rabbit pelts and murdering children. So it's a sick, twisted story, but you got to love it.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's the kind of story that when you tell it at a campfire, everybody's interested and kind of glued to listening to the story.
You get spooked out, and then you hear a sound in the woods, and then it makes a fun, scary night.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there were many stories of murders around the Bunnyman Bridge in the early 1900s. And then again, it kind of sparked back up again in the 1940s and the 1970s. However, during research, literally none of these murders were ever substantiated. There's no kids hanging. There's no evidence of any murder anywhere near the Colchester Bridge. And so it does not validate the story.
Right.
Because something as heinous as children disemboweled and hanging from a bridge would definitely be a news story.
Oh, absolutely.
And we do have a record of papers from the 1900s. So those articles would have been available to see, and they're not out there.
Right.
So we have to assume that these incidents actually did not occur. But there, in fact, was a guy by the name of Douglas J. Griffin. Now, kind of doesn't work out as far as the timeline goes, because this guy was born in 1940 to Edith and Walter Griffin, and they lived in Gainesville, Virginia. So Walter ultimately was killed while serving in World War II, and as a result, Griffin's mom became extremely protective of Douglas Griffin. Right. She didn't want to lose her son. She just lost her husband. So this poor kid, he's never allowed out of her sight. He can't socialize with other children. He's probably been homeschooled. And in and of itself might drive the kid nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't.
Essentially can't leave the house.
Can't leave the house. He always has to be attached to his mom's hip, and he didn't get to have friends, et cetera, et cetera. So it may have caused some mental instability on Douglas. Don't know. Didn't say that, but I'm just making an assumption. The two lived in a secluded home in the area that is now called the Loran Woods. Well, starting in 1958, there were numerous missing person reports for children in the Prince William and Fairfax County areas, and none of those missing persons were ever found until a case in 1964. There's a student from Barrett College named June Holliber, and she went missing when she was returning home during her winter break. And 2 weeks later, her body was found in a wooded area near Bull Run. Well, the clues led the police to Loran Woods before the trail went cold on them. Griffin was questioned by the police as a person of interest, but there was nothing to actually tie him to that murder.
Which is interesting that they had him as a person of interest. If they have nothing to go off of, they would lead it to him.
So something clearly led there, but
it had to be, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have enough evidence
Right.
to pin it on him. But shortly after his interview, he's in the wind. This guy disappears.
Which is not a good look.
Not a good look. So he's probably responsible for that. But there's no record of Griffin existing in the Northern Virginia area until the 1970s, when court records show that he had misdemeanor charges for trespassing and stuff. But there's really nothing to tie him into being the Bunnyman. He wasn't interested in rabbits.
Yeah.
He wasn't hunting and eating rabbits.
He didn't have the coat of pelts.
They didn't find pelts. There was no hatchets or anything that would be like his MO as the Bunnyman. So there was another case that I read, and it was interesting. I just didn't see how it really relates to this, but in 1949, there was a mother and daughter that were murdered, buried in a shallow grave. She was shot in the head, and the little girl was buried alive. And they ended up pinning it on the husband because they were driving with him in his car, and then they just disappeared. And he didn't report them missing, from what I understand. But anyway, the police are out there looking all over for them, and one of them notices that he's standing in soft dirt. And just as they were ready to give up, he realizes, I wonder why this dirt is so disturbed. So they find the mom and daughter. They end up arresting the guy. I think he confesses to actually killing them. And off he goes to a mental institution. So, but this is 1949, right?
Right,
when the original stuff happened in 1906. And there was really nothing to pin him as the Bunnyman either, other than the fact that he was a psycho and he killed his wife and daughter. They try and relate it to the Bunnyman somehow, but I just didn't see the fit. They didn't even give his name or anything. So I didn't put it in here. It's bottom line, but I'm talking about it, because it was out there. So if you guys have researched the Bunnyman and you see this 1949 incident, there's no link to being the Bunnyman just because it happened in the area, I guess. Any murder, anything that happens, they're going to say it was the Bunnyman.
Exactly.
But there was nothing to indicate it was the Bunnyman. So I didn't put that in our paper here on that being a potential because I don't think it was.
Right.
So those are 4 different versions of the story and a little bit of reality as it comes to this Douglas J. Griffin. How that poor guy got rolled into becoming the Bunnyman is beyond me. But he did actually exist. And I don't think he had anything to do with any of the murders. And we'll get into that a little bit during our debunk of this urban legend. But now let's move into sightings if you want to. And there's only 2 actually documented sightings. There's a lot of newspaper articles out there, believe it or not, about police looking for the Bunnyman or Bunnyman strikes again. There were a lot of little news articles that I thought were kind of fun to read, but there was nothing specific outside these 2 sightings.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and cover these sightings.
So on October 21st of 1970, and it was shortly after midnight, Robert Bennett, who was an Air Force Academy cadet, was in his car with his fiancée, and they were parked in the 5400 block of Guinea Road, which is near the Colchester Overpass in Clifton, when a man in a white suit with long rabbit ears ran out from nearby bushes and yelled at him for trespassing.
Now, just that in and of itself, what is the guy doing out there?
Yeah. Even if it is his property, like let's just say hypothetically, it actually is his property.
Yeah.
What is he doing out there at midnight in a bunny suit?
In a bunny suit. Exactly. So right off the bat, the guy's a psycho.
Exactly.
It doesn't even matter because it's not like Halloween where he just went to a Halloween party dressed as a bunny.
Yeah.
And what's he doing out in the middle of the woods? And now I will say this. I looked this area up on a map, and this area is kind of creepy. So I'm trying to figure out like where this guy would have come from.
Yeah.
To just emerge out of the woods, out of nowhere in a bunny suit with a hatchet.
And claim that somebody's on private property.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't make sense, like looking at the maps and stuff, that why he would even be out there is beyond me. Anyway, yeah, go on.
So Bennett says that the Bunnyman shouted, "You're on private property and I have your tag number." All of a sudden, the front passenger window shatters because the Bunnyman threw a hatchet at them. And there you go, like just like you were saying. Like,
yeah. It's a very, how shall I say, like a mobile type weapon.
Yeah.
You can use it close quarter. You can use it from a distance. And he chose to chuck it.
And this just adds more validity to the guy is a psychopath. Because again, even if it was private property and you were for some reason out there on your property being weird at midnight with a bunny outfit, there's no reason to throw a hatchet at somebody's window. You just say,
yeah. How about you just turn around and go back to the whatever rabbit hole you crawled out of and call the police.
Yeah.
But no, he chucks a hatchet at him.
Breaking their window.
Yeah. And so, the fiance is sitting there on the passenger seat. That could have very easily smacked her in the temple or something.
Or even the glass could get in her eye or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So he's clearly a nut.
So Bennett quickly drives off, and then he notices the wood-handled hatchet sitting on the floorboard. So he reports it to the police, but with only the hatchet for evidence, they end up finding no solid leads in the case. And of course, the Bunnyman just skips off in the night, never to be located.
Yeah.
Which the story for him being out there would have to be the most outlandish thing.
Yeah. I can't even imagine why he'd be out there. And secondly, the hatchet's real. So this incident occurred. There's pictures of the hatchet. They have it like mounted like in this glass case because it's the Bunnyman.
It's what I would do.
Yeah. And so when the police took it, my understanding is there's two different accounts on this, but my understanding is because they didn't tie it to anybody, they never found the Bunnyman. They went out there.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, they did a search for this big rabbit and and they never found him. But in one account, they gave the hatchet back to this guy, Bennett. And so I think he either has the hatchet, and I've seen pictures of it online. You can look up the Bunnyman hatchet. He either still has it or he's given it to somebody, as a museum or something that they put it in. One report says the police kept it. The other one says they gave it back to him. I believe they gave it back to him because I don't think the police would be posting pictures of it online.
No. And I'm sure they have enough evidence in their evidence room. They don't need more stuff that they have no use for.
Yeah. Now,
unless they were going to mount it in their station.
Yeah. Which would kind of be cool anyway. Yeah. I mean, if you had something like that hatchet, I don't know that it'd be worth money. I bet if you put that up for auction, somebody would pay top dollar for that to have the Bunnyman's hatchet. Because it's kind of cool.
I'd put it in a shadow box and put it up on the mantle.
Oh, absolutely.
Something, the little plaque on it.
Now, why there were no fingerprints on it is beyond me, unless he was wearing bunny paws.
Yeah, bunny paws.
And if he had bunny paws, it must have been a pretty good costume to be able to grip that properly, with those big...
And he didn't touch the hatchet before putting the bunny paws on?
Yeah.
Unless he put it on and then wiped it down.
Yeah.
Which he's clearly a psycho, so he's not going to do that.
But if he did do it, then that makes him even more of a psycho because then it's all premeditated.
He's out there to get somebody.
Yeah. He knew, let's not leave any evidence behind. So I'll wipe this down. I'll put my bunny paws on.
Yeah.
And when I check this thing, they're not going to have any evidence on it. I don't know, but.
Do you think someone that is dressing up at a bunny outfit at midnight out there, hoping that somebody potentially drives along, has that much thought process to think out ahead?
I would think not.
But stranger things have happened.
But stranger things have happened.
Guys in bunny suits.
Exactly. Yeah, bottom line is the guy's a nut.
Yeah. There's no other way to slice it.
There is no other way to slice it. So the second sighting, believe it or not, occurs literally within 2 weeks after this first one. And so it's October 29th, 1970 again. And a man wearing a furry rabbit suit with 2 long ears appears again on Guinea Road. So you got to wonder if he lives out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Or if that's just like his favorite place to
kill children.
or do whatever it is he's out there doing.
Yeah.
But again, he's on Guinea Road. And people saw that he had an axe with him. And in this particular case, it's like this long-handled axe now. It's not a little hatchet or a small axe. They called to report the incident. And this guy by the name of Paul Phillips, who was a private security guard for a construction company that contracted him to kind of keep an eye on this new development. He says that he saw the big rabbit standing on the front porch of a new but unoccupied house. So Phillips kind of walks over there to speak to this Bunnyman. And as soon as he walks near him, Bunnyman starts chopping at one of the, like, on the front porch, like those support poles that go up.
Right.
I kind of picture like a little pillar of some type or just a support pole for like an overhang on a porch.
You know, and with that real quick being said, the hard part about this for Paul is because each company is different, you know, private security companies, some of those guys are unarmed.
Yeah. And in this particular case, he is unarmed.
And so there you go. Like,
yeah,
you got a guy in a costume
he's talking
chopping
to
wood.
a rabbit on a front porch with a long-handled axe.
Yeah.
And as soon as he engages this guy starts chopping at this newly constructed home, and he's like whacking the pole out on the front porch. So Bunnyman looks at him and yells, quote, "All you people trespass around here," end quote. And then he proceeds to smack this pole, and Paul says it was like he put 8 big gashes into that support. Then the Bunnyman yells again, quote, "If you don't get out of here, I'm going to bust you in the head," end quote. Well, Phillips is kind of taken back by this large bunny.
Oh, absolutely.
With an axe. So he retreats back to his car to get a handgun out of his car.
It was probably a personal handgun. It's probably not a company issued one or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets the gun and he turns around, and Bunnyman has, again, hippity hopped off into the woods, never to be seen again. Now, Phillips describes this bunny as being about 5'8", around 175 pounds, and appeared to be in his early 20s. And so my assumption is that he's not wearing a full bunny head, but that it's a open-faced, where he can actually see the guy.
I'm picturing he looks like Ralphie on the Christmas movie, you know, when he comes downstairs.
Exactly. So in order to be able to guesstimate an age, he had to have the open-faced costume where he's just wearing bunny ears. Now, I don't know if it's the kind of thing where women use those hair, what are those things called? They just slide over the...
Oh, yeah. I don't know what they... Yeah, my wife has them. I don't know what they're called. But
and they slide them on their head, and they've got the little teeth in it. You slide it back.
Yeah.
But you know how they always put cat ears on those, or bunny ears, or whatever on those little braces that go over your head? I don't know if it's that, or if he's in a costume that has the bunny ears, but kind of like a hoodie with bunny ears on it. I have no idea, because he didn't describe that. But the only way you could say that you're in your 20s is if you could see his face.
Exactly.
Now, he didn't say, was he white, Hispanic, is he black, is he Asian? So he obviously wasn't able to get a good enough look at the Bunnyman. And so the police show up and they can't find him. So Bunnyman clearly is going down a rabbit hole or into a cave, or he lives somewhere out there where he's able to hide. Because I would think, and I don't know what their resources were, but this is 1970. So, you know, it's not like we're talking about 1904 or something again. I would think that the police would have enough resources that if they really were concerned about the Bunnyman, that they would have had not necessarily a search party, like a whole search and rescue thing where you got 50 people out there on quads, but at least a couple of guys that would kind of go back there into the forest land and look around, follow potential tracks.
Even if you get some hunting dogs or something.
Yeah, I was going to say a canine unit or something, you know. Don't know that they had one back then. I'm not sure. I mean, hunting dogs been around forever.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know that the department had the resources to do that. But
even some guys with flashlights and...
Yeah, I would think that it wouldn't be that difficult to spot a 5'8" rabbit out carrying an axe. somewhere out there in the woods. I know that woods can be extremely sparse, and you might not find anything, but this guy had to be going somewhere. I would think there'd be tracks or something that they
the
could
smallest
follow.
piece of evidence that they could pick up on. Yeah.
But they either didn't pursue it or they did, and the result was the same anyway.
Right.
Didn't find him. So Bunnyman has never actually been identified. Now, these two accounts are real. So
Yeah.
this isn't going into the legend of the Bunnyman. This is actual.
Yeah, because even if the legend is all hoax or story just for campfires, all that aside, this happened.
This happened. This is real.
You got police reports. You have
And
witnesses.
And so you've got a nut out there wearing a bunny costume who has no qualms about hurting somebody with an axe.
In the span of 8 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's unbelievable. And there's like newspaper articles to support this as well. So I know that it did occur. I don't think you can chalk these people up as nuts.
No.
They were mortified at the fact
and I
that
doubt
a big bunny was out there.
I doubt Robert Bennett took his fiance out and said, "You know what? Get out of the car. I'm going to throw a hatchet through it, and we're going to go tell the cops that a bunny guy." I just don't. That's not going to happen.
And the kid's an Air Force cadet.
Yeah.
So I would hope he's credible.
Right.
And then this other guy's a security guard. I would hope he's credible.
Exactly.
I doubt that they made it up. What that boils down to is there's a lunatic out there wearing a bunny suit, carrying a hatchet, who's either trying to keep the legend of the Bunnyman alive, or he doesn't even know about the legend of the Bunnyman. He's just a psychopath in a bunny suit.
Yeah, that thinks for some reason that land over there is his property.
Yeah. Don't have any explanations. I find it bizarre. But I thought, what a great story.
Oh, yeah.
To tell. And the more I looked into it, and the more I read about it, and the same for you. And, we've kind of watched like some videos and stuff on the Bunnyman. There's some YouTube stuff out there. There's things on TikTok about the Bunnyman, and they're basically just relating this exactly what we're saying. There were no other sightings, though. So the Bunnyman either just appeared twice, and that's the end of it, or not. But I did see that other people have gone out there to the Colchester Pass and claimed to have seen it. But again, there's not enough specifics on it to be able
That's
to
all you get.
say what really happened out there. Let's move into how the legend works. First, if you visit the bridge, and this one doesn't give a specific time frame. It just says that if you go out and visit this bridge, you can hear his laughter, and you might see ghostly images of children hanging from the trees.
Which that might be more horrifying than seeing the Bunnyman with an axe.
I think it would be. The kids hanging, I don't think you'd ever get that out of your head, for the rest of your life if you actually saw some apparition of dead children hanging, disemboweled and dismembered.
Their guts hanging out.
Yeah. That's one of them. I think the most common legend or myth here is that if you show up at the overpass on Halloween night, that's kind of the specific in this one.
Right.
At midnight, you may see a bright light or an orb in the tunnel. If you go up onto the tracks above it on the overpass, you may actually see the Bunnyman's ghost. Either way, the legend goes, you're going to end up just like those kids, gutted and hanging from the bridge or bludgeoned with an axe. Or you might get hit by a train. And so I immediately thought Pope Lick Monster.
Right.
So people go out there to see if they can see the Bunnyman. They get enticed by its ghost. They walk up on the overpass. They get on the tracks. Here comes the train, and they get hit. Very similar to the Goat Man, the Pope Lick.
Right.
He lures you onto the track. Now, that's a long trestle in that particular case. So there's no running off of that. This one, I have no idea how long it is. It might be just a short overpass because it's really just a tunnel that you can drive under the train track. You might be able to jump off, still probably break your legs, but I would think you could get off. So I think the whole legend here is that once you're up on the track, the Bunnyman doesn't let you leave. He's either going to kill you with his axe or you're going to get hit by the train.
Right.
And again, you're right back at the Poplick monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with the axe, or you're getting hit by a train.
I'll take the broken legs.
So it's funny how all these legends seem to meld together. You know, you got the busload of psychotic inmates that crashes near a bridge. You know, one of them survives. Now he's an apparition that haunts the bridge and lures you on to get killed by a train. It's the same story as Poplick, except it's a psychotic bunny.
Yeah, instead of a goat.
Yeah. Another thing, this one's kind of like what is that, Bloody Mary, where you say it into the mirror and she shows up. This one says that if you walk underneath the train tracks at midnight and say, Bunnyman, 3 times, you may get a glance at his ghost. And it'll be, of course, in a white bunny suit stained with blood and dirt, kind of like we just said, you know, that I can picture that, wearing those pelts where they're dirty and bloody.
Yeah.
But be warned, because the Bunnyman hates visitors to the area. And he will chase you with his axe, and if he catches you, you're toast.
You're done.
Yeah. You're not going to live to tell the story.
It is interesting, though, that that legend works at midnight when our Air Force buddy over here, that's when their sighting was. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Exactly. And so I don't think it's one to play with, because if it was real, apparently there's no escaping it. He's going to kill you if you show up.
Yeah.
Now, I did read one other thing. This particular area has homes around it, whatnot. The police, it's become kind of like a cult thing. Kids are going out there constantly, specifically Halloween night. And so what I saw was that the police routinely patrol that area on Halloween at midnight to send kids away.
Yeah, they don't want to scrape some kid off the train tracks.
Yeah,
understandable.
And there's no trespassing signs and stuff, you know, around that. And so one thing I think I read on Reddit was, don't go out there at midnight on Halloween. You're going to get arrested. The police aren't playing around with this. They get ticked off because so many people try and go out there and
and end up getting killed on the train tracks.
Or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
They're just not supposed to be there.
Or they're vandalizing stuff.
And you know that they are. They're probably spray painting the overpass and putting their name on it and everything else. So the police actively arrest people that are showing up out there at midnight on Halloween for trespassing.
Yeah.
I would imagine they give you a warning, you know, hey, get out of here, kids.
Well, you know, they're probably ticked because, I mean, we were kind of talking about it earlier. You know, there's some old lady getting held up at a liquor store, but they got to be out there because a bunch of kids are trying to spray paint their name on the side of the thing and do TikToks by a bridge.
Exactly. I was looking at images of the bridge, more specifically to try and determine the difference between the Colchester Overpass and the Fairfax Station Bridge. And I was trying to look at pictures of both. They look the same to me. There could be a difference there. But in one of the pictures, somebody was great. Somebody posted a picture shooting into the tunnel. They're not in it. They're outside, so you get to see the entire overpass.
Yeah.
And the tunnel is pretty much dark with a little light at the end of the tunnel. But they had somebody in there in a big rabbit suit.
Oh, I've seen this one. Yeah.
Where it's kind of a silhouette. It's a dark bunny.
I love that picture. Yeah.
And I thought, that is perfect because that's what you're supposed to be able to see when you get there.
Yeah.
So somebody took advantage of that, shot the picture with this bunny inside the tunnel. And I thought, oh, that's perfect. But what if you got there and saw that and that thing started running at you with an axe? That'd be horrifying.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, let's move into debunking this, the whole legend in and of itself. And this is an easy one technically to debunk. And I hate doing debunks.
I was just thinking that.
Because it's more fun to believe in it than it is to say, it's all a bunch of crap. But let's just get right down to
it's just facts. You got to say the facts.
Despite the fact that this legend has persisted since the early 1900s, there's actually no historical evidence to support it at all. I mean, in every faction, it's debunked.
Which is disheartening, but it is what it is.
Fairfax County never had an insane asylum, period. And so all of the versions are escapees from the insane asylum, transports from the insane asylum. Well, there is no insane asylum anywhere in Fairfax County. So you can't say even by Clifton or Colchester or Fairfax Station, these different towns. It's the entire county has no insane asylum. So that debunks all of the versions right out of the chute.
Right.
Even the guy that supposedly killed his family and was committed to an insane asylum, there's no
Nothing.
insane asylum there to commit him to. So that part didn't happen. The Lorton Reformatory, where in the case of Douglas Griffin, where they're being transported from the insane asylum to the prison. Well, the Lorton Reformatory was a former prison complex that actually did exist. However, it wasn't even built until 1910, and it was built for the District of Columbia, not Virginia. So inmates would not be there from Virginia cases. They would be from District of Columbia cases. So that facility was a reformatory for cases out of Washington.
Right.
Or Maryland, actually, but Washington, D.C. The fact that it wasn't built in 1910, that's 6 years after the original version came out. So in 1904, Douglas Griffin supposedly was being transported to the reformatory that didn't exist. So debunked. Douglas Griffin and that Marcus Walster that he supposedly murdered out there, and they found his body near the rabbit carcasses.
Right.
Griffin and Walster, their names don't appear in any court records during that time frame. The bridge itself, the Colchester Overpass and the Fairfax Station Bridge. Now, I wasn't able to confirm the build date of the Fairfax Station Bridge, but the Colchester Overpass wasn't built until 1906.
So there's 2 years.
2 years after the first version of the story. And then finally, the date 1904 would obviously put the Bunnyman into his like 80s or 90s, right? Because he had to be about 20 in 1904. Most of the documented incidents of the Bunnyman were in 1970.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be 80, 90, which doesn't match the description that was given by the security guard of being a 20-year-old guy. So there you have it.
Unfortunately, there you have it.
It could not have occurred the way the versions and the legends have been described. The places didn't exist, or they weren't built yet.
No record of the people.
No record of the people.
Said to be.
And if it was Douglas Griffin, he'd be 90 years old.
That's a fit 90-year-old.
Fit 90-year-old
running around with an axe.
Swinging an axe, So unfortunately, it didn't happen. The urban legend is a fun one, but it could not have physically occurred. So kind of ruins the whole story.
Yeah.
We should not do.
Or
debunkings.
he sold his soul to the devil in his 20s,
Yeah.
and now has eternal life, and he's out there murdering children.
And you got to love that one.
Yeah.
Right? And the conspiracy is that they're covering up the murdered children.
Yeah,
So
by
that's
getting rid
why-
of all the records.
And that's why we can't find it, because the kids were really hanging there disemboweled, but the government is covering it up because the Bunnyman is a secret government project.
I knew it was real.
Yeah, exactly. And we're sticking with it.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
believe in the Bunnyman, and we got to go.
Oh, yeah.
We got to go see that, because there's no doubt in my mind that, well, I'd be afraid to go up onto the track, but
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
I'd probably park outside the tunnel and
Yeah, sure.
scream Bunnyman 3 or 4 times, just see if anything happened. you know?
Right. I'm not walking on the tracks even if I see him, though.
No.
Because even if you saw him, why would you walk on the tracks? To do what?
Yeah, to get close enough where he can kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
It doesn't make any sense.
Unless, like the public monster, that he somehow hypnotizes you.
Yeah,
and
there's something going on there.
It's against your will, and you're heading up there for your untimely death.
Yeah.
But popularity of the Bunnyman, there are no festivals. There's no social gatherings or something for celebrating the existence or the non-existence of the Bunnyman. But there were movies. There was the original show, The Bunnyman. And these are cheesy. Have you ever seen them?
I have not. You were telling me about him, though, and now I'm going to have to add it to the list.
So
though.
I watched it a long time ago, and it was horrible. It's massively B-rated, but it's still fun,
Right.
to watch. But in 2011, Bunnyman came out. 2014 was the sequel, Bunnyman 2, also known as the Bunnyman Massacre. 2014 was Bunnyman Vengeance, and that was the trilogy of the Bunnyman. And then in 2024, somebody came out with this little short story, kind of a horror comedy. I started watching it. It was so bad. It was horrible. I think it even takes place in like Sweden or something. So
Oh, yeah.
it wasn't even true to the Virginia story. Anyway, I can't recommend that one by any means. And then a couple of local residents there, they opened a couple of places. One called the Bunnyman Brewing, which we need to try that,
Yeah.
on Guinea Road in Fairfax, Virginia. And then they opened up the Bunnyman Brewing Cafe on Workhouse Way in Lorton, Virginia. So they got one on Guinea Road where he's been spotted, right? And they got one in Lorton where the prison was. And I think it's great that local people continue the legend, keep the name, and open up a place, where you can go in and talk about the Bunnyman and have a brew.
Yeah. And if they serve food, I would hope that they would have playful names with it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they have to serve rabbit, right?
Exactly.
Like a rabbit stew or something.
Something, yeah.
That'd be great.
But you got to get like the slaughter burger or the
Yeah.
beer with extra hops in it, something to play on words.
Yeah,
I always like when places do
Meatloaf
that.
Massacre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we've got on the Bunnyman. It's a fun story. Again, I can picture this one being told at, campsites.
Yeah.
Scaring your kids, to the point of no return. I don't know that people do that a whole lot anymore. But
Yeah,
when I was growing up, we were terrified. There was always some horrifying story being told by my dad, and it made life fun.
Right.
And now we're so overprotective of people's feelings. You don't want them to go to bed with nightmares.
Yeah. God forbid.
Yeah. I think it's important to go to bed with nightmares and deal with reality.
You don't want to live your whole life terrified of every little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta nip
enjoy,
the bud right out of the chute. You got anything, Jake?
No, I think that's it. I enjoyed this one. I mean, I enjoy all of them, so I can't really
I
say
do too.
But, yeah.
And normally, like we've always said, we have been sticking with cryptids up to this point, and this is definitely not a cryptid.
Right.
It's just a legend. And our next episode that's coming up also is kind of a cryptid of sort, but not.
Right.
It's more of a ghostly apparition kind of a thing.
Ghostly urban legend, cryptid
urban legend
combined.
Yeah. So we're venturing out, from cryptids a little bit, but it's all in fun.
That's right. Yeah.
Everything that we're talking about, we're having a great time with. Next episode is going to be the three-legged lady of Mississippi. This one is creepy.
Very creepy.
Can't even imagine if it was real in any way, shape, or form. It would be the most horrifying.
This
thing.
is horror movie creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
horror
they all
movie
kind of are, you could turn all of them into that, but just, this one alone.
I wouldn't want to see the lizard man in person tearing my door off or something.
No.
But the three-legged lady,
yeah,
that one, I don't know. I don't think I'd ever get past that.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. So stay tuned for, the next episode, The Three-Legged Lady.
Yeah.
And until then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show and you want to help us out, then go ahead and give us a follow, leave us a review, and don't forget to turn on the automatic download button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And as always, if you've had any experiences, stories, thoughts, comments, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to cryptidfanatic@gmail.com. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show or just have your story featured during one of our episodes.